You know that feeling, right? That little tickle in your throat, and then boom, a big, powerful cough. It feels like the natural thing to do, the right thing to do. But what if I told you that the body's most powerful tool for clearing your lungs could actually be the most damaging? Today, we're going to dive into the surprising science behind huffing versus coughing. So first, let's just talk about raw power. A single cough can shoot air out of your lungs at a mind-blowing 800 kilometers per hour. To put that in perspective, that is faster than a lot of commercial airplanes. It is one of the body's most explosive reflexes, and it's designed to literally blast anything unwanted right out of your airways. But that power, that sheer force, it kind of begs the question, doesn't it? When we're talking about our delicate lungs, is that kind of explosive power really the best way to go? Well, as you're about to see, the answer is often a resounding no. So, to really get this, we first have to appreciate the cough. Let's break down what's actually happening. It's a high-pressure, high-stakes reflex, and honestly, it's a brilliant piece of biological engineering. At its heart, a cough is your body's security guard. Its bouncer. It doesn't matter if it's dust, a bit of mucus, or that piece of popcorn that went down the wrong pipe, the cough's job is to forcefully eject anything from your windpipe that has no business being there. And that massive explosion is actually a super fast 4-step process. First, something irritates your airway. Second, you take in a huge gulp of air. We're talking up to 2.5 liters. Third, and this is the absolute key, a little flap in your throat called the glottis slams shut. Your muscles tense up, building up this insane amount of pressure. And finally, step 4, expulsion. The glottis flies open. In that whole sequence, that's what creates the blast. Seriously, think of it like a cannon. The compression phase is like tamping down the gunpowder, building up all that potential energy. And the expulsion, that's the cannonball firing. That sudden, violent release of pressure is what gives the cough its incredible clearing power. Okay, but here's where the story takes a turn. What happens when you fire that cannon inside a structure that's, well, a little fragile? This is where the cough, our supposed hero, can seriously backfire. For people who are already dealing with chronic lung conditions, or maybe someone who's just gotten out of surgery, that same explosive force isn't protective at all, it's actually destructive. For lungs that are already vulnerable, it can do way more harm than good. See that super high pressure that makes a cough so effective? Well, it can actually cause weakened airways to just collapse on themselves, especially in conditions like COPD. It's incredibly painful after an operation, it's exhausting for people who are already weak, and it can even trigger an asthma-like attack called a bronchospasm. So this leaves us with a pretty big problem. If the main tool your body has for clearing your lungs can actually damage them, what on earth are you supposed to do? Well, luckily, there's a much smarter, gentler, and, believe it or not, often a more effective alternative. And this brings us to what's called the gentle art of huffing. Now, I know it sounds a little weird, but trust me, this technique is a total game changer in respiratory therapy. Huffing is basically the anti-cough. Instead of that violent explosion, it's more like a controlled, forceful sigh. Think about fogging up a mirror or your glasses to clean them. That ha sound. That's a huff. The goal is exactly the same, move mucus, but the way it gets there is completely different. And the big secret is right there in the definition. You do it with an open glottis. And here it is, the fundamental difference that changes everything. A cough closes the glottis to build that cannon-like pressure. A huff, it keeps the glottis open the entire time. By taking that pressure-building step out of the equation, the whole dynamic shifts. And just look at the difference this makes in the real world. A cough can crank the pressure inside your chest up to 300 millimeters of mercury. A huff, it generates just a low to moderate amount of pressure. It's just enough to get the air moving quickly, but nowhere near enough to create that damaging explosive force. And that pressure difference leads directly to this, which is probably the single most important benefit. Because the pressure is so much lower, the risk of those fragile little airways collapsing is dramatically reduced. This is what makes huffing so much safer for people with conditions like emphysema or bronchoactasis. This table really puts it all side by side. Just look at the two columns. With huffing, your glottis stays open, the pressure is low, and airway collapse is way less likely. It takes less effort, so you don't get as tired. And get this part is really important. huffing is actually better at clearing out those tiny little airways deep in your lungs where a big cough can't even reach effectively. So you might be thinking, okay, got it. Huffing is good, coughing is bad. But it's not quite that simple. The smartest way to do this isn't to replace coughing completely, but to actually team it up with huffing in a really specific strategy. Think of huffing as the mobilizer. Its job is to do the delicate, tactical work. It gently coaxes the mucus from those tiny, hard-to-reach airways deep down and shepherds it upward into the main highways of your lungs, the larger airways. Then, and only then, once the mucus has been moved into position in those bigger airways, the cough gets a new job. It becomes the expeller. Now you only need one single, gentle but effective cough to get the mucus out for good. You're using its power surgically, only when and where it's most effective and least likely to cause harm. And this right here, this is the gold standard technique taught by respiratory therapists everywhere. It's a simple 1-2 punch. You do a couple of controlled huffs to bring everything up, take a little breath, and then follow it with one focused, gentle cough to clear it. It's all about working smarter, not harder. So who really needs to know this stuff? Well, for a lot of people, this is absolutely essential. We're talking about anyone with COPD, patients trying to recover from major surgery who simply can't handle a violent cough, and people with neuromuscular weakness who get tired very easily. For them, this isn't just a neat trick, it's a cornerstone of staying healthy. At the end of the day, it all boils down to this one core principle. The goal isn't just to get stuff out of your lungs, it's to do it efficiently, without causing pain, without causing fatigue, and without damaging the very airways you're trying to help. It's about choosing finesse over brute force. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We as humans, we often assume that the most powerful, the most dramatic version of anything is automatically the best one. But as we've just seen with huffing, sometimes the gentle, controlled, and just plain smarter technique is way, way better. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other simple, effective health tricks are we overlooking?